Hello, and welcome to Air Crash Chronicles, the channel that explores the mysteries behind some of the biggest air disasters in history.
Yevgeny Prigozhin, the Russian mercenary chief who died in a plane crash, was quietly laid to rest in a secret ceremony in his hometown of St. Petersburg. The burial took place at the Porokhovskoye Cemetery, with heightened security measures in place. Despite the restricted access, an AFP photographer managed to capture a glimpse of Prigozhin's fresh grave, marked with a simple wooden cross. Mourners left a framed excerpt from a poem by Joseph Brodsky at the gravesite. Prigozhin's press service confirmed that a private ceremony had been held for him at the cemetery. The discreet nature of the funeral led Ukrainian officials to suggest that the Kremlin feared potential protests. This funeral serves as the end of a notable era, during which Prigozhin played a major role in Russia's military operations in eastern Ukraine and posed a challenge to Moscow's leadership. Some political analysts believe that the funeral was part of a covert operation to eliminate Prigozhin, carried out under strict surveillance and secrecy. Russian authorities claim that Prigozhin died in a private jet crash along with 9 others. The crash occurred 2 months after Prigozhin ordered a mutiny against Russia's military leadership, which was seen as a significant challenge to President Putin's authority. Many speculate that the plane crash was intentional, potentially the result of a missile or bomb. However, the Kremlin denies any involvement and dismisses claims of retaliation for the Wagner Group's march on Moscow. With Russia's upcoming presidential election approaching, Prigozhin had become a liability for the Kremlin. Authorities have launched an investigation into the crash, but have not released any details regarding the cause. Following the mutiny, Putin accused Prigozhin of treason, but after his death, Putin described him as someone who made mistakes, but achieved results. However, questions surrounding Prigozhin's death persist, and homemade memorials to him have started to appear across Russia. Putin will not be attending Prigozhin's funeral, according to the Kremlin. Prigozhin's Wagner Group played a crucial role in Putin's offensive in Ukraine, taking on dangerous frontline work and incurring significant losses. Prigozhin, unlike Russia's generals, regularly appeared in photographs alongside mercenaries on the front lines.
The regional governor of Kherson in Russia has reported that 1 person has been killed and 3 others, including a child, have been injured in the shelling of the city. Governor Alexander Prigozhin stated that the Russian attack included residential areas and targeted critical infrastructure and a medical facility. Meanwhile, a think tank has suggested that Yevgeny Prigozhin, who led a mutiny in June, underestimated the personal humiliation felt by President Putin and overestimated the value of his own loyalty. Russian state TV channels have mostly disregarded reports of Prigozhin's apparent plane crash death, instead focusing on Putin's participation in the BRICS summit. One news anchor even suggested that Ukraine may be behind the reported deaths of Prigozhin and his associates.
Prigozhin recently stated that Wagner would redeploy to Africa, where they continue to operate as mercenaries in various conflicts. Although it seemed that Prigozhin had been reintegrated into the Russian security establishment, U.S. officials expected him to face consequences for his actions. They believed that Putin, known for seeking revenge, would not let Prigozhin escape retribution. The plane involved in the crash, an Embraer Legacy, was frequently used by Prigozhin for his travels, including trips to Africa. The aircraft was on its usual flight path to St. Petersburg when it crashed near Tver. Videos shared on social media showed the plane rapidly descending, accompanied by what appeared to be shots fired from anti-aircraft defenses before crashing in flames. There are investigations into the cause of the crash, including the possibility of a terrorist attack. Earlier on the same day, Sergei Surovikin, a general believed to be close to Prigozhin, was dismissed from his position in the Russian Army's aerospace forces as part of a crackdown on potential sympathizers of Wagner. Surovikin has not been seen in public since the failed coup. This is it for today's episode. We're going to keep you in touch about this terrible news about Prigozhin's death. Actually, already there are theories about that he staged his death. What are your thoughts on his death? What really happened and what do you believe in? Subscribe to the channel and click the bell button so you won't miss the next episode. Goodbye. Yevgeny Prigozhin, the founder of the Wagner mercenary group, died in a plane crash in Russia about 2 months after his failed coup attempt. The Russian Aviation Authority stated that his private jet crashed in flames during a domestic flight. There is speculation that Russian President Vladimir Putin, who had accused Prigozhin of treason, ordered the downing of the aircraft. This incident follows the firing of Sergei Surovikin, the former commander of Moscow's war effort in Ukraine, who has not been seen in public since the coup. Prigozhin, once a loyalist known as Putin's chef, became embittered with the Russian government's handling of the war. Despite an uneasy truce between Putin and Prigozhin, the crash occurred, resulting in Prigozhin's death along with 9 others, including Wagner figure Dmitry Utkin. Some sources believe the aircraft was shot down by Russian air defenses, while others suggest that Prigozhin may have staged his own death. Pro-Kremlin analyst Sergei Markov attempted to place blame on Ukraine, suggesting it was a terrorist attack. Journalist Christo Grozev dismissed this theory and instead proposed that Putin personally ordered a hit job to humiliate Prigozhin. The policy of the Russian government to eliminate opponents has led U.S. officials to anticipate the death of Yevgeny Prigozhin. Secretary of State Antony Blinken made a remark at the Aspen Security Forum suggesting that Russia has an open windows policy similar to NATO's open door policy. U.S. officials, including President Joe Biden, expressed little surprise at the news of Prigozhin's death, attributing it to the brutality of the Putin regime. Diplomats from Central and Western Europe also shared the belief that Prigozhin's survival chances were slim after his failed coup attempt. The plane crash occurred exactly 2 months after Prigozhin's uprising, which involved capturing the headquarters of Russia's southern military district. Prigozhin, initially a small-time criminal, later became associated with Putin and developed a restaurant business. Prigozhin, initially a small-time criminal in St. Petersburg, gained favor with Putin and started his catering business, Concord, which secured lucrative government contracts, including supplying rations to the military. He used his connection to Putin to establish the Wagner mercenary group during the Russian occupation of Ukraine in 2014. Prigozhin publicly admitted to leading Wagner in September, after Putin's full-scale invasion. He gained prominence by recruiting convicts and leading successful but brutal attacks in Ukraine. However, Prigozhin became frustrated with a lack of support from Russia's high command and defense ministry. He expressed his anger through profanity-laden rants on Telegram, distancing himself from the military leadership that Putin remained loyal to. An aircraft said to be carrying notorious warlord Yevgeny Prigozhin, whose Wagner group launched a failed mutiny in June, was crashed on a flight from Moscow to St. Petersburg, according to Russian officials.